How's everybody doing tonight? I'm John, and I'm going to take you through a very quick and dirty, pardon the pun, clean and normal maintenance on the Carrera D132 cars. This is not a complete teardown and rebuild or anything. This is just something you want to do every, pick a number, what's comfortable for you. Maybe 25, 30 laps, depending how big your track is. If you got a smaller track, maybe a couple hundred laps, I'm not sure. Just after a while, the performance will degrade, and that's telling you the car needs to be cleaned and maintained. So that's what we're going to go through. You're at the part of my workbench. This is not my normal workbench. It's being repurposed and reutilized currently at the moment. I'm in the process of building another track for these babies, so you have to bear with me on that. What I've got here real quick, I'll just go through what I'm using. Of course, I've got a tray, and the tray is just the lid from a Chinese food container. And I also have it marked with forward, rear, driver's side, passenger side. That's just a habit of mine. I come from the HO side of things, and with a lot of things with HO, the orientation of parts made all the difference. You can completely change the way a car performs, even by something as simple as a motor clip being put on the backwards. And you know, you just really had to pay attention to orientation. That's a habit I've gotten into, so I'm probably going to be doing more of that than I need to. Just bear with me on that, if you would please. That's just a habit I got into, and I haven't been able to get away from it yet. I have some mild soapy water. It's just room temperature. Don't need hot water, don't need cold water. Just room temperature is fine. I also have a clear water rinse over here. I've got a couple brushes, an old toothbrush and a makeup brush that I like to keep relatively dry. I have a ink eraser, various lubes and greases. I've got some small screwdrivers, toothpick, and over here I've got this for wiping the body down. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do, of course, is take the body off. And I'll just use my screwdriver, and if you don't have a magnetic screwdriver, don't be afraid to use a little button magnet. Just stick it to the edge of the screwdriver, and all of a sudden now you've got a magnetized screwdriver. It helps out a lot. So we'll take, in this case I've got 4 body screws. We're going to go ahead and remove those one at a time. I can get it out of there. There we go. Take those off. Okay, pretty straightforward and simple. Three and 4. Once you do this enough times, you can do it very quickly. Now keep in mind, if you have like a police car or a safety car that has wires, lights attached to the top, you're going to have wires attached to those lights, so be very careful when you pull your body off. Make sure nothing's hanging up. That's it, the body comes right off. Let's take a look inside here and see what we have. In case you've never been inside of one, you got your chip, you got your motor, your gear train, you got your rear lights, your front lights. This here is your assembly for the guide flag and the pickups. And this one here, a lot of cars have these. In this case, the front axle is 2 independent pieces. It's not one solid axle. I think you gain a good performance increase by that. It allows these front wheels to spin individually. Seems to help out quite a bit. Okay, for normal maintenance, what I'll do, first thing I like to do is I'll remove the braids. And I do that just by carefully lifting up on each braid and getting them out of the way. And that's my driver's side. Do the same thing. And there's a lot of fuzz in here. Sometimes you have to just lift up with a little screwdriver a little bit. And then I'll remove the guide flag. And same way, just very carefully lift up with a flat screwdriver, and it comes right out. Okay, that's out. Rear axle. we want to remove that. Make sure you don't have any wiring coming on top of the rear axle. And we don't want to push on the axle itself. I just push on the tires and give it a little pop and it comes right out. There's your rear axle. Your front axle, in this case I'm not going to remove it. There's no need to. Everything's right here. Okay, let's take a look and see what we have. Try to get in close. Okay. These locations we've got a little bit of dirt buildup. Up in here you can see we've got a line for grease. And we're going to try to get rid of some of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to lubricate all the bushings except for the motor end belt. I would recommend staying away from that as long as the motor is still in the car. It's a little too difficult to get a small enough drop here. If you get too much, it's going to wick its way into the brushes, which are right here, and you're going to end up having a motor that doesn't run. So be mindful of that, and we should be okay. So, okay, let's start with a quick clean. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that soapy water, and I'm going to just try to brush some of that grease out of the way best I can. Just get it out of there. And do the same thing with the motor pinion. Get rid of some of that old grease. Don't have to take it all out, just get rid of some of it. I'll take my dry brush and go in there and try to scrub some of it out. The majority of it's gone. And that's all you really need for this. While I'm at it, I'll carefully brush the entire chassis. Now that I have a little bit of grease residue on the brush, it takes care of all the dust and gets all the dust out of the way. Very lightly, very quick, brush it down. Go ahead and scrub over your magnets because these tend to build up quite a bit of dirt and gunk, and give it a good overall wipe down with your brush. That's all you really need to do at this point. All the excess is gone. We should be in business. Good. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about oiling. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the ultra thin oil that I've got here. This is what I have on hand. Used it for HO for quite a few years, seemed to do fine, and it seems to work fine with the Carrera. I'm sure there's better oils out there, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm using for right now. And we're going to put just a tiny, tiny drop. Get it in there. There you go. Put that on your motor on the pinion side. Give it a quick little spin and take your brush again and brush it. This will help remove any excess oil because it does not take much. The biggest thing is people tend to over oil these things, and you really don't have to. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to my medium, or my regular light oil, not the ultra light, and I'm going to use that for my wheel bushings. Now here in this case, just a drop in between the bushing and the wheel on the front, since they're independent. Tiniest drop. Quick little drop. All that takes. And once again, I'll use my brush to get the excess out of the way. Okay. Now at this point, I'll lick my finger and I'll use my thumb to put a little bit of resistance on the tire, and I'll just go over the tire real lightly just to get rid of any extra fuzz. Just drag your finger across it and take care of any fuzz that you can. Brush your wheels real quick. Okay. Those feel good. Okay. Alright. Let's pay attention to the rear axle. In this case, I'm going to use a little stiffer of a brush. And I want to just get all the axle fuzz. You catch a lot of fuzz on your axle, and me more than most because I'm doing the cardinal sin and I'm running on carpet. So that's something I always had to be mindful of. And if you have to, get you a little water. We really want to make sure we got all the fuzz and hair and everything else off of this rear axle. Okay, and I'll take this brush and I'll go over it and make sure I pull everything else off. Okay, give it a good brush, make sure all your stuff is out of the way. Now at this point, I'll take my tires, my rear tires off. And they just slide right off. And this is one thing I do like to keep the driver's side, passenger side orientation intact. Okay, so make sure we don't have any foreign objects hanging out inside the wheel. Okay. There, it's looking good. It's nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and take my lightweight oil, tiny drop on each bushing. I shake them up and down to help. Oh, I missed a big fuzzy there. Big fuzzy. Wow. How did I miss that? Okay. 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 Give that a quick dust. All right. Let's talk about grease. This is the grease I'm using. Once again, have it on hand. I'm sure there's better stuff. And what I like to do is I will go ahead and I'll put it on the teeth, just right around this edge, and I just dab it in. Just like so. Not too much, but you want to. The goal is what you want to do is you want to fill up the teeth. So I'll go ahead and grease it up. Once I got it greased, I'll go ahead and I'll wipe it. And what I've got is my teeth are full of grease. The reason why we don't want too much, because too much grease is going to sling all over the place and it's going to make a huge mess. So we want to keep the greasing and the oiling to the minimum necessary. Now let's take a look at, I'll do the same thing here with the pinion. Just get a couple dabs in there, don't take much. Couple little dabs. Make sure you get a little dab on the very end, that little metal shaft sticking out of the end of the pinion, because that's what fits into the groove. Okay, rear axle assembly now can snap into place. Make sure your bushings are lined up. Quick pop and it's in. Now I go ahead and give it a quick spin. Make sure all my grease is being distributed properly. And then I'll go ahead and take my dry brush and go over it lightly. Just make sure I get rid of any other fuzzies and I remove any excess grease. There you go, it's lubed up with just the right amount of grease. Should be fine. Okay, let's take care of the tires now. I'll do these the same way. I'll give them a quick, just a light lick on your finger, a little bit of the soapy water. Wipe them down. I like to make sure the inside is clean. Okay. Then I will take just a couple drops. Boom, boom. That's it. And I'll slowly work that into the outside of the tire only, not the inside, the outside of the tire. Let it work its way in. Give it a good little rub. It's going to work this oil into the rubber. It's going to keep the rubber very soft and it'll keep it a lot stickier. Okay, seems like I got a fair amount on here. So I have more than I probably should, but that's fine. Okay. And at that point, I will go ahead and I will install the tire on the rim. Okay, good. Now once this oil begins to dry, if you need to, take a clean dry rag and wipe it on the tire a little bit. Feel like you got too much on there, and as it starts to dry, you realize just how sticky it actually is. Okay, at that point I try to keep the car out of the off the rag. I try to keep the tires off the rag so I can keep those as clean as possible for the next run. Okay, same thing here. The inside's clear, good, and I'm going to go ahead and just a couple tiny drops of oil and just work it in. Very good. Okay. All right. Nice. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll get that one installed. Now as that oil starts to absorb into the rubber, you're going to feel just how sticky these tires are. They're going to feel very, very clean and very sticky. So, and that's what we want. Okay. Let's recheck your work. I'm going to add a little bit more grease in here. I don't think I have quite enough. Just a little bit more on top here. Be a bit light on grease. That looks a little better. Okay, good. All right, so where we're at this point, everything's lubed, everything's greased. Now we got to do a little bit more cleaning. Turn the car over. We look down here, we see these two little strips here. I'm going to take my old ink eraser and I'm going to just gently clean the tops of these. And you'll see they'll shine right up. This is your brass contact, and this that can use a little bit of cleaning. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our motor brushes. Once again, I'll remove them to make sure I don't have any dust or dirt. And I'm going to take the lid to this little thing, and I'm going to set that down right here, and I'm going to just brush the braid in an outward manner, and it does a good job of cleaning any dirt and everything off the pickup itself. I know people use wire brushes for this. They use brass wire brushes. I am still very confident using the eraser. It seems to work good for me. And if I had my scissors here, I would go ahead and make a quick trim, but we've got just a couple of fuzzies there, and I'm going to go ahead and clip those off, get those out of there. Okay, and there's our brush. Just form your brush up. And we're going to go ahead and use the eraser, and we're going to gently, don't push hard, we're going to wipe down the pickups, the little stems on the pickups a little bit. Wipe those down, just knock any grease or dust off of those, and then the back side here, we're going to give that a quick wipe down, and that will help keep all this clean. Okay, do the same thing with my other pickup, and see how out of whack these things get sometimes. Okay, straighten that brush up on here. Okay, get this one cleaned. I like to clean both sides. That helps keep it flat. Okay, you don't have anything weird sticking up. And I'll very gently brush my contact points. Okay, good. All right, those are ready to go back in. Guide flag. A lot of people are not aware that this is actually a maintenance item. And all that really requires a little drop of oil. That's all you really need. Little drop of oil. Dab it just to remove any excess. Sure your guide flag's in good shape, doesn't need to be replaced. And then we can just install the guide flag the same way it came out. Gentle push and it's in. That's it. Our brushes, same way. I had two little grooves on the front and rear right along this brass strip, and these little tongs go right into those holes. And just give it a quick push in, make sure it's seated fully, and get your brush where you want it. Good. Okay. Do the same thing with this one. And that's my brush. So it's in nice. Good. Okay, make sure that spins back and forth just fine. Good. Okay, that takes care of the lubing and oiling of the chassis. What I'm going to do now is, there's no sense in doing that to a car without tending to the body. Now if we notice on the inside of the body, besides hair and tire goo and a little bit of grease, so I'm going to take and smear all that around and make sure we got anything loose off the inside of the body. A lot of people forget the inside of the body. One thing I don't recommend is I don't recommend doing a dip on the inside of the body and, you know, washing it. The reason why is with these false floors is water gets trapped up in there. It's very hard to get the water out. So we're going to go ahead and just give that a quick, and if you feel like you need to, add a dab of water to help make things sticky, and it'll pick up any loose hair that you have. You don't want much, you don't want it drippy. Okay, and that'll get rid of all the fuzzies. Good, that's done. Go over rag lightly. We're not trying to scrub it clean, we just want to get rid of all the loose debris. Okay, that's done. Outside of the body, I use this. Quick shake, a couple quick sprays, take a nice soft rag, give it a polish, and how well this stuff does is, this stuff does pretty well. You can spray it over the clear items, doesn't have any effect on them, and makes the body feel good. Okay. Alright, I'll go through my wheel wells, make sure my wheel wells are cleaned. Okay. And we'll wipe that down real quick, and I'll wipe it down again, and now it's nice and shiny. And I got a piece of hair trapped up in there, isn't that nice? Nice and shiny. Okay. And then at that point, we're just putting the body back on. So make sure you don't have anything pinched. And we can start with our screws. Not too tight. That's all it takes. Okay, and that's it. And that's all it takes for a normal running session type of maintenance. Not a big teardown. It's just quick, it's easy. It feels great. Car feels great, looks good. Everything's clean, everything's good to go. And this car's ready to put back on the track and run spot on. So that's it. That's all there is to it. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. And like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert at this stuff. So if you've got anything else that I may have missed or any better suggestions, that'd be great. Other than that, that's it. That's all it takes.